Strange Brew Podcast, Season 1, Episode 375. The Brewers played, the finals continued, hockey, and I lost some bets. Let's go.
On the ground, a chance here. Durham to Hardy to first. Hit time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes!
Here comes Melvin to the 25, to the 20, Gordon 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Wisconsin! Record-breaking run!
Morgan, a smash up the middle, face into center. Here comes Gomez, around third, a throw, and the Brewers win!
Here's the snap. He looks, he throws, it's complete interception. And there is your Super Bowl dagger.
Booker the drive, gets inside, leans in, knocked away and stolen by Holiday. Phoenix has to foul on a pinnacle ball, throws it down.
Swinging fly ball in the right center. Broxton is there, and they're the champions. They have done it.
It's been a 50-year journey. Wisconsin, we've got a room at the top of the world tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions.
All right, so I was told my teaser segment is getting a little too lengthy, so we got to tighten it up. Got to cut that thing down. I guess we were getting to be in about, 3, 4, 5 minutes for the teaser part of the episode. So, all right, we shortened her up. We're going to keep things more concise in the teaser part of the podcast. We'll see how long we can stick to that. Welcome into your Monday morning. Yeah, we got some stuff to go over here. It was a good weekend for the Brew crew in Colorado. The Miz, what a moment on Saturday between Miz and lower jaw protruding Pat Murphy. That was an interesting standoff. We're going to go over all of that. NBA Finals, all that stuff on the way. I do want to say right out of the gate, I fixed something over the weekend. I did it. Area podcaster fixed something. My hands got dirty. That does not happen a lot in the podcast radio realm, which I am extremely self-conscious about. If you know me, you know I'm self-conscious about my hand size anyway. They're normal sized, but not as, if you're a guy, you would like a big mitt. You want a big bear paw to shake somebody's hand. But another thing that I've been self-conscious about my entire life, my professional life, is that when I meet people, you work in radio. My hands don't see a lot of work. They are milky white and silky smooth, like the George Costanza hand model. So I am always very self-conscious when we have listeners come in that win things or they want to meet us or whatever, and see them at remotes and you shake their hand. A lot of the B93 listeners are blue-collar listeners. They work hard. They work in a factory. They're fixing their truck over the weekend. They're out on the boat. They're ripping things up. So they have working man's hands. And I know the second I shake their hand, I know the second I do that, I am being judged on how silky, soft, and smooth my hands are. My hands haven't seen a day of work. But yesterday, I took apart something and my hands got dirty. I had to wash my hands yesterday. It's got to feel like an Onion article, right? Internet blogger actually fixed something at home. Huzzah! Oh, we had a nice weekend. It was a nice, warm weekend. We have been running behind. We're still doing the bedroom remodel, guys. I mean, it's still going on. So we're in month 3. We're getting there now. We're actually taking things out of boxes that have been sitting in the living room forever. I actually assembled 2 end tables. I did a lot of actual real work on Sunday. First time I've worked. I've been in this job for 18 years, and I had to do stuff at home to get an actual day's worth of work in. So I assembled a couple of end tables that are going upstairs next to the new bed frame, which we put together. Still have to order the bed and install a ceiling fan. Thoughts and prayers to me for trying to do that. Could electrocute myself. But I got that done. And then we have been neglecting the backyard and the garden, the vegetable garden, all that stuff that we normally do. So we finally got after that this weekend. One of the reasons I've been reluctant to get into it is it's a day's worth of work, which internet bloggers don't love doing. But also, last year we had a situation where our outside spigot in our backyard, it just leaks. It won't stop. So no matter how hard you turn it to the right, it just won't stop leaking water. And that can lead to a lot of pooling of water, and it gets stuck in the hose. It's a whole big thing. So last year I ended up turning the water on and off every time I wanted to use it. So we're getting everything out there, and my wife has the hose out, so it's sitting right next to it. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm 42 goddamn years old. I'm an adult. I have a college degree. I know things. They don't give these podcasts to just anybody. I've got a reputation, right? They don't just throw these things around. Nobody can just start their own podcast. So I can do this. So I got on YouTube, and I figured out how to disassemble the outside spigot. I went to Ace Hardware. They read it right on my face right away. This guy borderline has no idea what he's doing. I found a part that I needed for 79 cents. Because you know what I was going to do? I was going to call a plumber to look at it, replace the spigot, whatever, fix it. And that would have cost, what, $180 for them just to show up? I found the little part I needed. I reassembled it. Got it all the way turned over, and the water was not coming out. And then I celebrated for, I would say, approximately 5 to 6 hours. It was a 1-hour job. I like to celebrate at a 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 ratio. I brought it up. I'm not even trying to work it into conversation, just outward saying throughout the night, man, how about that outdoor water spigot? My wife rolling her eyes. Yeah, we get it. Good job. You did one thing. You did one thing in this house in what? I think we've been there a decade now. I was pretty proud of myself as a podcaster, internet blogger, radio DJ. We don't get the chance a lot to get our hands dirty, but I did that over the weekend. But it was a nice weather weekend, so hopefully you got to enjoy it as we get after here on a Monday. Real quick before we hop into the Brewers, let's just do this order. I did bet on IndyCar again. It did not work out. We had the Madison, Illinois, the St. Louis kind of short track oval race, which was more exciting. Now, it started at 8 o'clock. I thought, when I saw a night race, I thought 6 p.m. was going to be the start time, but they had something else was going on sports-wise. I forget what it was. What else was on? College Baseball World Series, maybe? Maybe that was it. Or the softball championships. That was on Fox, and then this race started at 8 o'clock. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to watch the whole thing. We had, is it Pato Award? I don't think that I'm saying that right, but we had him, so now we're 0 for 3. As I said, when we were coming off of the Indy 500, remember I said it was so electric the way that race finished, and we had Malukas, and we had it ripped away from us at the last second. Excuse me while I take off my shirt here. We're going tarps off. Tarps off in the studio. It's just the jacket. I still have a shirt on. You couldn't tell, though. It's a white T-shirt, and my skin tone is about the same color here. So, remember, I was so excited coming out of that. Then we bet on the next one, the Detroit race. We lost that when Will Power wrecked. And then we had Award yesterday. And my buddy Nick had really good points. You know, he texted Sunday morning, said, here's why I think X, Y, and Z. It all made sense. He could have said anything. I didn't verify any of the information. But everything that he said made sense to put money on him. He was 8-1. And I think he finished 12th yesterday. So, was it Newgarden that won? So, I don't know how much longer. See, this is the thing with racing to me. I think a part of it really is. It's so hard to win these bets. I think if I could win more bets, I would get more into any of it. IndyCar, F1, NASCAR. But it's so hard to win those bets that it takes me out of it a little bit. And I think, not only am I going to watch a 3-hour race, but I'm going to lose money on top of it. Maybe one more, because Road America, I don't know if they have one. Does IndyCar have one this weekend? Road America, I think, is the next one. So we're 0 for 3. God, that Indy 500, that still chaps my ass. We were so close. I mean, Malukas was literally 100th of a second from winning. Oh, the next race is Road America. Now, I know we've got a bunch of weekend plans that weekend. Father's Day weekend. That's, I think, a big part of the reason why I've never been able to go to that is Father's Day weekend. But it is Father's Day, June 21st, 1 o'clock. Maybe I'll find my way up to Elkhart Lake to go to this thing and see if we can check this out in person. Maybe that will get me reinvested and reinvigorated seeing it in person. Racing is one of those things, you see it in person. So we are now 0 for 3, and my interest is dwindling as we have lost every bet. It's gotten worse, too, right? We were so close at the Indy 500. Then Will Power, before he wrecked, he was in charge of that race in Detroit. So then he wrecks, and then he has no chance to win, obviously. And then I don't think O'Ward really got into it much from what I saw. Top 10 for a while as I was watching last night. So, yeah, Road America is the next one. We'll see if maybe I can track down a ticket. Anybody from Road America listening? Maybe want to swing me something here? We give you a mention on the podcast. Dozens of listeners. Could be yours. Your ears belong to them. So maybe we'll see that one June 21st, a 1 o'clock start time for the XPEL. Is that what it is? XPEL Grand Prix at Road America, the Grand Prix at Road America. And then I do want to just talk about hockey real quick. Now, we mentioned at the end of the last podcast, this is a tremendous Stanley Cup Finals, despite the fact that I, like a lot of people, take the obvious swipes at the two hockey bastions of Las Vegas and North Carolina. It doesn't have that marketing cachet necessarily because, like we said, when I think hockey, you think of the Blackhawks and the Bruins and the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens, all these heritage franchises. I do not think of, despite the fact that they've been very successful in a short amount of time, Las Vegas. I do not often think of Carolina, even though they won a Stanley Cup 20 years ago. And they've had some success, a lot of success in recent history. They're two very good teams, and that has led to a wildly entertaining Stanley Cup Finals through 3 games, but they just don't have that oomph of having two traditional teams battling. But Saturday night was epic, to the point where I ended up watching more of Game 3 Stanley Cup Finals than I did of the Brewer game that night. Now, I did see the whole Miz showdown with Pat Murphy, which we'll talk about later. But and again, this is a limited sample size, so if you watch hockey all year long and you've watched hockey for your entire life, 30, 40 years, you've probably seen games similar to Saturday, I think. But in all of the hockey I've watched, and like I said, my wife and I have watched a lot of the playoffs this year, that was something like I've never seen before. So it's tied at 1, the Carolina-Vegas Stanley Cup Finals, tied at 1 entering Saturday, and the series shifting to Vegas. Now, Game 2 ended where the Hurricanes were down 2-0 entering the third period, looked dead to rights, and then with 10 minutes left, they score 3 goals, take a 3-2 lead. Then they give up the lead with 80 seconds left. It goes to overtime, and they win in overtime, and that's how they got the series tied. So they go to Vegas, and like I said on the last podcast, I've got Carolina before the series began. I had them at minus 180, which is not a great value bet, which we said at the time. And then since they lost Game 1, I hopped right back into the series price because now you're down 1-0, so the series price will be better, and it was at plus 130. So I've got them at minus 180. I've got the Hurricanes at plus 130. And I've got, like we said last episode, I've got the series going either 6 or 7 games, which I do feel confident in right now, but Game 4 clearly is going to determine quite a bit whether or not we get to that. If Carolina wins on Tuesday, then we're guaranteed, right? Public school math. We're guaranteed a Game 6, I think, at that point. So we're rooting for the Hurricanes and then some tomorrow, not just to get back in the series because we have them to win the series in 2 different levels of odds. But if they win this game on Tuesday, it's a 2-2 series, which means it's guaranteed to go Game 6 at least. And if it goes to Game 6 or 7, we win that bet too. So no score in the first period on Saturday. Stalemate. And then Vegas absolutely blows their doors off in the second period. They had 2 goals that were disallowed. That started the period, or that was early in the period. Vegas scored 2 goals, and they were both wiped away due to penalty or infraction. So, by the way, as I texted a buddy of mine, I love that the replay center, everybody calls that the replay center. NFL calls it the replay center or the review center. Major League Baseball calls it the replay center. Oh, we've got to go to the replay center and see if this runner was thrown out trying to steal second base. I love that the NHL calls it the situation room. It just sounds like it has way more gravity, doesn't it? The replay center, the situation room. And they disallow those 2 goals. So I'm swiping sweat from my brow because it feels like they should be down by a couple of goals already, and they're lucky to be in a 0-0 game. And then the Golden Knights just go bananas, and they score 4 goals in the span of 6 minutes. And it looks like it's over. They should have been up 2-0. Both of those wiped away, or they could have been up 2-0. Both of those wiped away. Then 4 straight goals. It could have been 6-0. But it's 4-0, and the Golden Knights are absolutely dominating. Marner had a hat trick in 6 minutes. I think that set a Stanley Cup Finals record. At that point, I'm thinking, all right, we're on to Game 3, I guess, or Game 4. There's no way they're coming back here. The Hurricanes pulled their goalie. They put their backup goalie in for the third period because you don't want that goalie to stay out there and then give up 5, 6, 7, have their confidence entirely shattered. So it's 4-0. Vegas is dominating. Carolina puts their backup goaltender in. And again, from my layman's hockey perspective, they're thinking, let's just lay some guys out in the third period. Let's battle, let's fight, let's nick them up a little bit. If you ever watch the TV show Shoresy, which is a great show, let's go kill a few guys. Maybe we get a goal or 2 on the board, get some momentum, lose 4-1, lose 4-2. But let's play a physical third period. Let's not give anything else up. Let's score a goal, at least 1, to get ourselves on the board, give us some momentum. That's what I'm thinking if I'm a fan or if I'm thinking I'm in the Hurricanes locker room. All of a sudden, Carolina scores 3 goals in 39 seconds. So they gave up 4 goals in 6 minutes. Then they score 3 goals. They get 1 on the board. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, you got 1, good. Then they get 2. And I'm kind of starting to get some hope, but I'm also thinking, all right, at the very least, if you lose this game 4-2, you got a couple of goals on the board in the third period, and you build some momentum heading into Game 3. Then 5 seconds later, they score another one. I thought, oh my God. And then on a power play late, they tie the game. It goes to overtime. No score in the first overtime. And then heartbreak in the second overtime, where that backup goalie that was in for the Hurricanes, puck ricocheted off the backboard. And then as it's ricocheting back toward the net, he was kind of outside the net. It hits his skate and ricochets into the net. You've got to be kidding me. So to go from getting absolutely pounded down 4-0 entering the third period, you score 3 goals in 39 seconds, you tie the game, you go to overtime, no score in the first overtime, double overtime to lose like that. And I guess, that's an old hockey adage, pucks on net, pucks on net. Just get as many pucks near the net as you can. You never know who's going to tip it. You never know how it might ricochet. Just get as much as you can on the net, and at some point you'll break through, and just getting one off the board behind the net ricocheted off his skate and went through. Tough way to lose when you came back from 4-0. But these games have been incredible. So now game 4, like I said, is Tuesday, and I should just check. I may as well triple down on the Hurricanes at this point. Actually, it might not be a bad idea to hedge at this point. We'll see what the series price is. So it's a 5-4 game 1, tight. It's a 4-3 overtime game 2, and a 5-4 double overtime game 3. Even though these are not heritage programs, this has been incredible hockey, even from my very casual, and it is casual, my very casual perspective of somebody who knows most of his hockey from watching 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons of the Preds and watching every episode of Shoresy and every Mighty Ducks movie several times over. That's where most of my hockey knowledge comes from. It has been a lot of fun to watch these 3 games so far. And yeah, on Tuesday, if the Hurricanes win, not only do you get the series evened up, but then at least we know we're cashing the this series goes 6 or 7 games ticket. I'll just see. I'll take a look at what Vegas, I would guess, is probably in the minus 200 range right now. Yeah, we may have to triple down on Carolina. All right, what the hell? Let's just check it. What's a couple seconds here among friends? It might not even be. Well, it should be posted. It was Saturday night. So we have them at minus 180. We have them at plus 130. So we're heavily invested. Let's see here. Straight bet, bookie Chad. Score, series price. What do you think it is? I haven't looked at it yet. So, again, Hurricanes were minus 180 before the series started. Then they were plus 130 after being down 1-0. Now they're down 2-1. I would guess the Hurricanes are plus 180. Here we go. Click continue. Click continue to continue. They are we not going to load here? This is why doing things live on the air doesn't work. They're plus 160. Well, that was close. Should we triple down on the Hurricanes? There is a Ric Flair Hurricanes gif out there because he's a Carolina guy and they're from North Carolina. That kind of got me invested too. So we'll see. I've got time. We don't have to do this until puck drops at 7 o'clock tomorrow. We don't have to do anything. Those are probably not going to change long before that. But that was an electric finish to Game 3. And I think even a lot of casual hockey fans out there, the Green Hat or the Pink Hats, they're called the Pink Hats out there, even they have to be entertained so far by this series. Now, let's talk about the Brew Crew in Colorado over the weekend, the Sunshine State.
Moved to, what do you call it?
Denver.
The Sunshine State. On Denver.
Gorgeous. Brewers and Rockies over the weekend, and you never know what happens in Colorado. I think we talked about it in the podcast. I know we talked about it on the air. You have a first-place Brewer team, a last-place Rockies team, but weird stuff happens in Denver. I mean, you can be a team that's 30 games over 500 at the end of the year taking on a 50-win Rockies team, and in that thin air, if you have a couple of bad pitching performances, you can lose 13-2 in a heartbeat in back-to-back games. So you can never take it lightly when you go to Coors Field because it's just a wonky venue. And to speak to that, Friday night, the Brewers were down 3-1 entering the ninth inning. Who was the starter? Sproat. You know what? Sproat was okay. We talked on Friday about how badly he needed a good start. It didn't start off well. He gave up 3 runs in the first 3 innings, and he was getting roasted on Brewer Twitter. Brewer Twitter reacted as rationally as you would expect them to. More on that coming up in a second. Actually, it must have been Friday night I got into it on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, I don't really do a lot of stuff on Twitter. We do a lot more on Facebook and Instagram. But we don't do a lot of Twitter stuff. But I do have a Twitter account to find content, to find videos, to find takes. And sometimes, if I've had a few too many cocktails, I will get into it with the really negative fans. There are always a ton of super negative fans on Twitter. And no matter how good things are going for the Brewers, no matter how good things are going for the Packers or the Bucks or whatever, they're always kind of poking holes and saying, yeah, well, what about this and what about that? And they're going to lose in October anyway, so who cares? So Sproat was getting roughed up early, and we talked about he has had a lot of issues. So there are also a ton of injuries. Woodruff's been out for a while now. We thought he was coming back sooner than he has been. He's been out for a while, maybe in the next few weeks. So he's on the IL. Henderson's on the IL. They've got a lot of guys injured in the rotation. And I saw some comment, I forget, it was a post about Brandon Sproat. And I saw somebody comment about how the Brewers, and I'm paraphrasing here, but this person said the Brewers went from one of the deepest starting rotations to one of the thinnest or the worst starting rotations in baseball really quickly, huh? That's something to the effect of that. And I said, one of the worst in baseball? I feel like we're being a little bit dramatic. And in the post, he said Chad Patrick's in his own head, so he can't start. Shane Drowen's not a starter. Coleman Crow is ass. That's what he said. So he's listing off all these guys that he doesn't think are any good, even though most of them have had pretty decent numbers so far. So Coleman Crow's ass, Sproat's not good, Shane Drowen's not a starter, and they have no depth anymore in the starting rotation. We thought they did, now they've got the worst depth in Major League Baseball. I said, that's being a little dramatic. And then we got into it. He responded and said, I don't make up the stats, and I just tweeted his quote and said, you said Chad Patrick's a mental head case and Shane Drowen is not a starter. I don't see any stats there, bud. There's no stats. You didn't bring up any stats. Those sound like a couple of opinions to me. And also I said, Coleman Crow, he's made 4 starts. 3 of them were good, 1 was bad. It might be a little early to call Coleman Crow ass. He might be ass, but it's a little early to maybe say that now when he's made 4 Major League starts. 3 have been pretty good, and 1 was really bad, the last one he had in San Francisco. And so we go back and forth, and Shane Drowen became a topic. Now, Drowen, up until Sunday, he had made a couple of spot starts, and he's been pretty good. 3 innings of 1-run ball, I think 4 innings of 2-run ball. They're building him back up. The first appearance he made was as a starter in Boston, but since then he's been a bullpen guy, and now because they need him because of the injuries, they've been using him as a starter or an opener, but he's been pretty good. And this guy was scoffed, 4 innings of 2, you think that's good? 4 innings of 2-run ball? I said, it's not bad. You're acting like we have the worst starting rotation in baseball. Like, literally, you said that. So I could not wait. And again, this is John after 3 or 4 old fashions and a couple 2-tree beers and doing some grilling outside. And I don't know, sometimes those comments, those negative comments just strike me in a way where I think, you know what? Let's go. Let's dance a little bit here. So then I couldn't wait for Shane Drowen's start on Sunday because if he did well, and he did, I was going to hit that guy back after 2 days of going away because a lot of these fan accounts are sort of troll accounts. I'm probably arguing with a bot. It's probably a Russian bot I'm arguing with. That's how I spent an hour and a half of my Friday night. I didn't talk to my wife for 90 straight minutes, and I argued with a Russian bot about Shane Drowen. That's tough. But I think this person's a real person. I did go to this guy's account, and he's just one of those guys where if you click on the replies, he just hops into every post from a Brewer beat writer, every post from the Brewers account, and something's wrong, something's negative, something isn't as good as people think it is. That's just what he does. And very rarely, I would guess, after interactions, somebody comes back 2 days later, like I did last night, and had something else to say that bolstered my argument. I could not wait. I was so invested in the Shane Drowen Sunday night start or Sunday afternoon start because if he was going to do well, I was going to chirp a little bit, and I did chirp a little bit, and he was great on Sunday. I just checked back with him and said, hey, I have to get your assessment. You are the arbiter of whether or not a start is a good start or not. So I just want to make sure by your assessment, was Shane Drowen's start, do you consider that a good start? Did he go longer than 4 innings? Then yeah, I guess it was an okay start. So anyway, it all started with Brandon Sproat and some post about Brandon Sproat. But like we talked about on Friday, his last outing in Houston was not good, and Pat Murphy basically said after that start, look, we're not going to allow for this. We're not going to allow for a lot of duds. We have high aspirations this year, and as much as we like Sproat's stuff and we think he's going to be good down the line, if he doesn't show us something soon, then we're not going to allow for this kind of stuff to continue. So we said on the Friday podcast, it felt like there was a little more at stake for Brandon Sproat than just a random Friday night June start or an early June start. And it didn't start off well, but then after that, he kind of locked in. 5 innings of 3-run ball. Look, I'll take that. 5 innings of 3-run ball. You're in that game. And he had a couple of strikeouts, and he settled down. And I thought it was also key. We've talked often about Sproat, about how he's been so bad in the 4th and 5th inning. Like, he's been really good in the first 2 or 3 innings, and then he's bad in the 4th or 5th. Well, on Friday, he wasn't great in the first couple of innings, but I thought it was good for him not only to stick with it, despite how bad it looked early, and he was kind of walking a tightrope there, and even though it was 2-0 or 2-1 or 3-1, I think it was 3-1. Even though they were down 3-1, it felt like it could have been worse, and is he going to fall off a cliff here in the 4th or 5th innings? I thought it was pretty important that he stuck with it. They stuck with him. Murphy stuck with him. And then those 2 innings that have undermined a lot of Sproat starts, he was actually pretty darn good on Saturday. Did not allow a run in the 4th or 5th inning. So 5 innings of 3-run ball, that's a step forward. Well, not a full step. That's a quarter step forward for Brandon Sproat. And then the wild Coors Field in the 9th inning, the Brewers enter the 9th inning down 3-1. And they had 1 run on 1 hit. At Coors Field, 1 hit against that pitching staff. And then all of a sudden, Coors Field just Coors Fielded. Jake Bauers RBI single, Sal Frelick RBI double, Andrew Vaughn RBI single. So they go into the inning down 3-1 with 1 hit, and by the end of the 9th inning, they're up 5-3 with 7 hits. But then in the bottom of the 9th inning, Trevor McGill, who has been really good since, the beginning of May? Yeah, he was bad to begin the year, and then up until Friday, he had a 1.8 ERA in the month of May. So he was bad. Boy, we're talking mid-April he was bad. He gave up 7 runs in 2 appearances in mid-April, and that's why his ERA got bombed. And then after that, he's been really good. On Friday, he was not that good. He was not locating. He walked a 50 hitter, like an 0.50 hitter, like worse than Blake Perkins' batting average. He walked a batter with the bases loaded, hitting 50. That made it a 5-4 game. And then eventually the Rockies do tie it. He did get the final out of that inning, and they get it into extra innings, and they cash in extra innings. They put 4 more on the board. Aaron Ashby walked a tightrope in the bottom of the 10th inning, but he got out of it and gave up a couple of runs, but you get a 9-7 win. But that's Coors Field, a 3-1 game entering the 9th inning, and the Brewers have 1 run on 1 hit, and it ends 9-7 in 10 innings. Just crazy. That's what happens, though. So you get the win there. Then we get to Saturday night, and Jacob Misiorowski puts together another phenomenal start. And the Brewers are up 5-1 in the 7th inning, where I think we have a pretty seminal moment in the early part of Jacob Misiorowski's career. It is a 5-1 Brewer lead in the 7th inning, and he's trying to get through 7 innings. He walks a guy, and then he gives up a line drive single. So you've got runners at the corners with 1 down in the 7th inning. And like we've talked about, I think he's been a lot better since the beginning of the year of getting through the 6th inning. That was a big hurdle for him. And getting through the 7th inning, he's been doing that more routinely now. So he's getting much more comfortable 3rd time through the order in the later innings of a game. But at that stage, it's certainly understandable that they would maybe want to take him out of the game. He went 6 1/3. He only gave up 1 run. Turn it over to the bullpen. You've got a 5-1 lead. Let's not let this thing slip away. Let's go to the bullpen. So Pat Murphy is 2 steps out of the dugout, ready to take Misiorowski out of the game. And Jacob Misiorowski shakes his head at him and says, no, no, no. And basically tells Murphy to go sit down. It is a fascinating moment on the TV broadcast. Great song, by the way.
Look at Miz. He is telling the dugout, no, no, no. Miz wants to stay in this game. Oh, yeah. And watching him go back and forth with Murph.
That jaw is out.
You got it? Okay. This is great. He has grown up right in front of our eyes.
And that is a ballsy move. Now, we talked about this on the morning shows this morning. When I think of guys that have done that, it takes a certain resume. Now, if you're not familiar with maybe, I don't even know if it's an unwritten baseball. Baseball has about 1,000 unwritten rules. But it's one of those things where if you're around the sport, you watch it a lot. I've covered college teams. You have to have a certain stature as a starting pitcher to tell a manager, and not just any manager. This isn't just Johnny-come-lately manager. This is a 2-time reigning NL Manager of the Year. This is a guy who has been a manager or coach and won College World Series. He's been a coach for 50 years. So this isn't a young manager that you could maybe bully around a little bit. Like they've got in San Francisco, I forget the guy's name. They were just in town at AmFam last week. They hired a guy, Tony Vitello, I think his name is, that was a college manager, but he's never, ever at any level, like hitting coach, bullpen coach. He has never coached at the major league level. And it kind of feels like he's learning a little bit on the job, even though he knows baseball. It's very different being in a Major League Baseball locker room. And a guy like that, maybe a pitcher feels like they can push around a little bit, like I can bully this guy and I can stay in this game if I want to stay in this game. That ain't Pat Murphy, babe. That's not Pat Murphy. He may have pancakes in his pocket. He may be housing banana cream pie, but he's a bulldog. And Jacob Misiorowski, for all that he already is, and he is already a star player on this team, like I said, we feel like he's an ascending ace. He could be the face of baseball. He could win a Cy Young. I mean, there's a lot of things he could be, but he's only made 27 starts at the major league level. You really need a resume if you're going to tell a manager who's about to take you out of the game. The unwritten rule is, for the most part, 99.9 times out of 100, when a manager is coming out to get you, you hand him the ball, and you might grouse a little bit or say something under your breath, but you hand him the ball, you get a pat on the ass, and you walk back in the dugout. No, pretty much no matter who you are. You do not do that unless you're really certain you have that status, and then you're also certain that you can then finish whatever job you're in the middle of, finish getting out of the jam that you're in the middle of that they may try to take you out of. So when I saw this on Saturday, I thought, ooh, this is a moment. This is a Miz moment right now. And we're not talking about just striking out a bunch of guys at 115 miles an hour or whatever. This is a different kind of moment. This is a leadership moment. This is a Miz taking another step up on his level of his status on the team, where he is telling Pat Murphy, his manager, the two-time reigning manager of the year, no, you are not taking me out of this game. I got in this mess. I'm going to get us out of this mess. It did remind me a little bit of Major League 2, where Roger Dorn takes the hit by pitch, then refuses to leave the game.
So Dorn gets his first hit of the season, although it doesn't look like he's ready to leave yet.
No.
Dorn.
No.
Taylor may have to call the cops out here. Dorn!
I love that scene. No. So it was quite a moment. And then, yeah, he strikes out the next two guys. So it's a different narrative if Miz does that. And you have to think, I understand he's a competitor, he's in the moment, he's fiery, and he wants to stay in that game. But there had to be a little moment where he thought, am I going to do this? It's like if you stand up to your dad for the first time. Am I really going to do this? Am I doing this? And then when he's saying no, there had to be a part of his subconscious that thought, oh, God, 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 oh, crap, oh, no. It's one thing then if he does that and then he gives up a 3-run bomb to the next guy and then Murphy has to go out there, that changes it. Then it makes him not look bad, but it obviously is not the same story as it was from Saturday. So not only to have the balls to do something like that, but then to finish the job, to get back-to-back strikeouts and not allow a run in that inning. That was a really fun moment on Saturday. No.
Look at Miz. He is telling the dugout, no.
Oh, he says something under his breath too, Miz.
This game. Oh, yeah. And watching him go back and forth with Murph.
That jaw for Murph, that bulldog jaw.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, you see Murph say, you want it? Okay. Okay, let's see it then. And then to get back-to-back strikeouts, incredible moment, and one that could define the year in some ways for Mizrahi. He's already an elite pitcher this year, and we think that's what he's going to be for a long time, but that was another step in his maturity and his leadership, and the Brewers end up winning that game 7-1. And Miz, coming out of Saturday, Miz is now 7-2 with a 1.5 ERA, second best in baseball, and 116 strikeouts. I think that is still number one. It is. So, by the way, I don't know if we ever followed this up. So, he has a 1.5 ERA, second best in baseball. Christopher Sanchez has a 1.46. That's the best. Miz did not win Pitcher of the Month. Remember we talked about that, how razor thin that battle was between Miz and Sanchez? And I said I thought Miz should get it, in my totally unbiased opinion. I thought Miz should get it because he was better in every stat except the one run he gave up. Sanchez gave up no runs in the month of May. Miz gave up one run. But everything else, strikeouts, fewer hits given up, lower whip, everything else went Miz's way, more wins. And they did give it to Sanchez. So that one run he gave up against St. Louis cost him NL Pitcher of the Month. But those two right now are locked into the ERA battle in Major League Baseball. Miz 1.5, Sanchez 1.46. Well, what a cool moment that was. And Miz said, look, I wanted to do it for the team. I thought that was interesting, too, in the postgame because Murph, as you would expect, with a lot of managers and team, I mean, I can't imagine a coach that wouldn't take this approach, but he is very vocal about it. Murph always says, you're doing it for the team. You're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for the team. Like Kyle Harrison. I forget if we talked about on the podcast. When Harrison took on the Giants last week, and that's his former team. He was a top prospect there, and he pitched there in 23 and 24. Then they traded him to Boston. So Harrison on the mound against his former team, you would think that there is going to be a little extra for Harrison that night. He wants to prove something. He wants to show San Francisco they were wrong to trade him, and he's going to show him what he's becoming in Milwaukee. And Murph said in the postgame that he felt like Harrison was doing that in the first inning. And he talked to him after the first inning and said, hey, you listen to me. Stop it. Tell that Peter Griffin, stop it. He went to him and said, hey, this isn't about Kyle Harrison's revenge tour against the Giants. This is about the Milwaukee goddamn Brewers. And this is about winning the game for the Brewers, for the name on the front of your chest. This isn't about some vendetta you have about a pitching coach 3 years ago that let you down in San Francisco. And Harrison said after that game, that straightened him out because he was juiced up in that first inning, and that got him under control. Murphy has done that a lot, especially with a franchise that has a lot of young guys that are coming up seemingly every year. Top prospects are on their way up, and they've got the number one prospect system in baseball again. And you would think before the end of the year, we're going to see more of those guys coming up, and they all feel like they have something to prove, and they're a top 50, top 25, in Jesus Medei's case, the number one prospect in baseball. They're all going to try to prove that they're worth that, but Murphy is very quick to correct them and say, this has nothing to do with what you're trying to prove. This has everything to do with the Brewers. So I thought it was interesting that Miz, in his postgame, when they asked him about that exchange, he said very pointedly, I felt like I needed to do that for the guys. I felt like I needed to do that for the team. He always ended his sentence with for the guys, for the team. And I think that's another part of, he knows that Murph is listening, or Murph is probably going to see that, or that's going to get back to him what he had to say. And Murph, for his part, said, hey, he said he wanted it. He's earned it at this point in his young career, and he proved that he could do it. But Miz knows that likely that whatever he has to say about it will make its way back to Murphy. So I thought it was interesting. Miz very specifically tagged every sentence with, I felt like I needed to get out of that jam for the team, for the boys, for the club. Just here to help, like the Nuke LaLoosh, I'm just here to help the ball club. Thought that was an interesting part of the Miz post game, too. So you get that win, and then we head into Sunday, and my boy Shane Drowan on the mound. I was drooling. Come on, Shane. And then he gives up 2 first-inning runs that were not his fault, by the way. Terrible defense in the first inning. I can't believe those runs are earned. Shane Drowan went 6 1/3. He pitched into the 7th inning, gave up only 3 runs. Only one of those should be earned. Those 2 first-inning runs should not be earned. And Murph said that post-game. He said, I can't believe they're giving him 3 earned runs on that. Terrible official scoring. So then I was kind of let down. Oh, he's already down 2-0. But then he locked in after that. Gave up 1 more run. That was it. 6 1/3, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned runs. And eventually, again, the Brewers get things straightened out, down 3-1 in the 6th inning. Andrew Vaughn triple alert. Okay. And then Gary Sanchez hit a go-ahead 2-run home run. Hold on, I've got to find the call from Levering. I don't know what the origin story is. It doesn't come from Milwaukee, I don't think. I don't know what the origin story was of Gary Sanchez getting the nickname The Kraken, but Levo had an incredible call. Here it is. There we go.
First pitch hammered out to left field. It is way back, and the Kraken rises from the depths of the sea. His first home run in almost 2 months, and he gives the Brewers the lead.
What a call.
Way back, and the Kraken rises from the depths of the sea. His first home run in almost 2 months, and he gives the Brewers the lead.
So that flipped the game from down 3-1, then 3-2 to a 4-3 lead. They ended up scoring 7 runs in that 6th inning. Joey Ortiz took a bases-loaded walk. That's not nothing. Bryce Terang, 2 more driven in. Terang had a 2-home-run game on Saturday. Contreras had an RBI. Sanchez had it again with an RBI double in the 9th inning. Garrett Mitchell had a 3-hit day RBI triple. Luis Rengifo knocked a couple of in on Sunday. And we had that big discussion on Friday about some of those bottom-of-the-order guys and how much longer we're going to stick with them. They weren't bad in Colorado. I'll tell you who had a really good night on Saturday. I think he got the day off yesterday. Yeah, David Hamilton, 4-hit day on Saturday. And all of a sudden, he's hitting 244. And I can live with that. He's been a good defender at short or second or third or wherever they put him. He's got lightning quick speed. He already has 14 or 15 steals on the year. If he's going to hit 240 or 250, and he hit a home run over the weekend too, if he's got a little bit of pop hitting 240, 250, well, then you've got something there maybe. And if I'm Joey Ortiz, I'm already looking over my shoulder at Cooper Pratt and some of the guys in the minor league level, but I would say David Hamilton is another guy. If I'm Ortiz, I would think, ooh, going to lose some playing time here. Hamilton played really well. Boy, that trade, that Caleb Durbin trade, how good does that look? You get Kyle Harrison right now is in the mix for a Cy Young and an All-Star appearance. Shane Drowan comes out of yesterday with a 3-1 record and a 3.11 ERA. And Hamilton seems to be coming on. You got all 3 of those guys for Durbin and then whatever, Monasterio and Siegler, but essentially for Durbin, who is getting a little better. He's back. He's got his batting average above 200 now. Thank God for him. But what a trade that turns into. Drowan, Harrison, and Hamilton all coming back in that Durbin deal. Brewers rolled to a 12-4 win. They are 40-23. It is the fastest in franchise history that this team has reached 40 wins. The Cardinals won on Sunday. Hey, we have a below 500 team in the NL Central, everybody. The Cincinnati Reds. They lost 4 in a row over the weekend, or they lost 4 in a row including the weekend. So lost Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So on, must have been Saturday's loss, they dipped below 500. First time in, 2 months a team has been below 500 since maybe the Cubs were below 500 in the second week of April. So the Brewers right now, a 5-game lead on St. Louis. They've won 4 in a row. 5-game lead on St. Louis, and that is a true 5-game lead. They played the same amount of games, 5 better in the loss column. Pittsburgh and the Cubs now 7.5 back and 9 back in the loss column. The Pirates and Cubs, and now the Reds are 9.5 back. So the Brewers continue the road trip tonight. Now, tonight is going to be a tough one. They're moving on from Colorado.
You had moved to, what do you call it?
Denver.
I love this scene.
Sunshine State. On Denver. Gorgeous.
Thought the Rocky Mountains.
I expected the Rocky Mountains to be a little rockier than this.
I was thinking the same thing. That John Denver's full of man.
So from Denver, they are now headed to Vegas, baby. Vegas! Yeah, the Athletics are playing in Vegas. Well, they're splitting time, I think, between 2 minor league parks. So the artist formerly known as the Oakland Athletics, now simply known as the Athletics. No longer in Oakland, no longer a good old Oakland, Alameda, California, or Coliseum. So they are splitting time between Sacramento's minor league park and the Vegas minor league park. Eventually, right, Vegas is building a park for them, I think, like an actual major league venue. And that is eventually where they will end up. So it is in Vegas. Now, Lord help me, I hate this in the middle of a week. I used to love these. When I was in college, everything was better. Everything was better. I had way less heartburn. I slept better. I hurt less despite the amount of drinking. Everything was better back then. When we were young bucks in our early 20s, we used to love a Brewer West Coast trip because they were just starting the game as we were starting our night. You know, normally you'd take like a nap between 6 and 8 p.m., then you'd crack a beer and start playing some cards. And we loved having a 9 o'clock, 9:30 start time because as we're really hitting her for the night or going downtown, the game's just starting. It's like a part of the night then. The game's on from 9 until midnight at that time, and those games were like 3.5 hours long. Now I dread these. So we have a middle-of-the-week West Coast 3-game set. It is a 9:05 first pitch tonight and a 9:05 tomorrow, and not even an afternoon Wednesday. It's an 8:05 on Wednesday, which I guess is obviously slightly better, an hour better, reportedly, allegedly. But I was hoping we'd at least get a Wednesday, like a 2 o'clock start time on Wednesday. 9:05, 9:05, 8:05. Kyle Harrison on the hill tonight. Gasser goes on Tuesday. Another guy who's been pretty good, just to go back to that guy I got into it with on Friday. And then Sproat goes on Wednesday. Miz back on the hill on Friday. My wife and I will be there on Friday. Shout out to the Quick Trip Brewer Club. They are the last 2 years, Quick Trip has become the new version of the BP. BP used to have the Come On Back Club, they called it, where every time you filled up at least 8 gallons, they'd give you a stamp, and then after 8 stamps, you'd get 1 Brewer ticket. Well, Quick Trip has taken that over now. So I do a lot of driving back and forth, so you get points every time you fill up. So we are going to our first freebie Quick Trip game on Friday. And the Miz is on the hill. Hell yeah, that'll be fun. But 3 in Oakland, 3 in Vegas, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the Brewer Crew as they sit 17 games over 500 and in first place, the NL Central. Where are they? The Braves have the best record in baseball at 45-21. Brewers are 40-23, so they are 2 worse in the loss column. They are 3.5 back or 3 back of the Braves, and the Dodgers are 42-24, so the Brewers are 1 better in the loss column there and like a 1.5 back in terms of total games played. So they're right there. I mean, you want to be top 2, obviously, like last year. If you are one of the top 2 teams, you avoid that wild card round and you just go right into the NLDS like they did last year, waiting for the winner of that wild card game where they eventually play the Cubs. But you don't want to be in that best of 3. You want to be right away in the NLDS. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's still really early for all of the standings talk, but it is a podcast after all, and we're here to talk. So June 8th is a little early to say, well, where are they sitting right now in terms of the NLDS? We're not even halfway through the year, but just kind of something to keep an eye on. They're right there pretty much with the Braves and Dodgers right now for those top 2 or 3 spots in the National League. Hey, by the way, anybody go to the Savannah Bananas game? The Savannah Bananas, and the Party Animals, I think, are the team. That's like their Washington Generals. I was loving How I Met Your Mother when Ted and what the hell is the name of Jason Segel's character? And they go to those Harlem Globetrotters games, but they're rooting for the Washington Generals. What is his name? How I Met Your Mother cast. It is Marshall, Ted and Marshall. So that is kind of what's happening right now. I would say the Savannah Bananas are basically the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. They used to be like, that was a legit minor league baseball team. And then they had a new owner take them over and decide to do a lot of this gimmicky fun stuff where the guys are doing backflips as they catch a ball in the outfield and doing a triple Lutz when they throw it to first base. And they have the coordinated dance routines and there's a lot of stuff that happens. It has taken over the world, though. All of those games at AmFam on Saturday and Sunday were sold out. I mean, they were packed to the nuts at AmFam Field. I don't think you had any room for tarps off there. And it looked like a lot of fun over the weekend. Now, I don't know that if somebody gave me a Savannah Bananas ticket, I'm a little like a stodgy, old-fashioned baseball fan. I know I'm only 42 years old or about to be 42 years old. I don't need a lot of dancing and gimmicks and stuff like that. I understand some people love that. I am a traditionalist. You know what I would equate this to? So I grew up in a bowling alley. My dad managed Maple Lanes in Sheboygan. And because of that, I went there a lot, and I bowled a ton for the first 20-plus years of my life, and in college, not as much in the last 10 to 15, but when I was in junior leagues and I was basically there for daycare, I was bowling. So then around, 2002 or 2003, a lot of bowling centers incorporated rock and glow bowling, where you have the disco ball and the EDM, the techno music, and the black lights, which you probably shouldn't use, and the glow-in-the-dark lanes and the glow-in-the-dark balls. And I remember when they put that in at Maple, like you had to have it. If you were a bowling center, a lot of casual people loved that. They did it Friday nights, Saturday nights, party atmosphere, and people loved it. A lot of people were there, and especially those first couple of years, you need like reservations to get into rock and glow bowling. But because I grew up just a traditionalist, like just straight bowling, I hated it. I couldn't get behind the frill of it. And then if you're a good bowler or you think you're a decent bowler, it's hard to bowl in those conditions because you can't really see the parts of the lane. So I didn't like it. That's what I would equate it to. I am a traditionalist baseball fan. I don't need all the gimmicky stuff and the backflips and the coordinated dances and the bats on fire. I don't need all of that, but that's how I would translate it. Like when I'm a traditionalist bowler, I don't need the disco ball. I don't need the music and the spotlights and all that kind of stuff. But that was over the weekend. I know a lot of people went, had a great time, and it was a tough ticket to get. It was an expensive ticket to get on the secondary market, like hundreds of dollars to get into the Bananas games over the weekend at AmFam. But yeah, the Brew road trip continues tonight, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, let's talk about the NBA Finals, and what was out? There was one other thing I was going to hit on here. I forget what it was. NBA Finals on Friday night. I don't know why. Why was there no NBA Finals game last night? That seemed odd on Sunday night when they had already had a day off. So Game 2, Spurs and Knicks in San Antonio. The Knicks took it in Game 1, 11-0 run at the end of that game when they were down by 1. They finished the game on an 11-0 run, and they won by 10. So Game 2, you feel like if you're a Spurs fan, you can't lose 2 at home, right? And they did. And the Knicks, again, were right there, tie game late, and Victor Wembanyama, he's drowning a little bit. And I hate to say the moment is too big. I mean, he is already one of the top 10 players in basketball, probably a top 5 player in basketball, maybe even top 3. I mean, he was right there in the MVP running with Shea this year. And he is the future of the league. 7'4", 22 years old, can block a million shots, can knock down shots. It's not like he's a tall guy who can't shoot. He can knock down threes. He's good at the free throw line. He's got it all. He's a 5-tool player. But it does seem like the gravity of the situation, and like I said on the Friday podcast, I thought there might be a little letdown when they had to go through what they had to go through to get out of the Western Conference. We used that Badger as much as I hated to do it, as much as I hated to rehash memories of the 2015 Badger run where they beat undefeated Kentucky in the Final Four, but then 2 days later had to take on a really good Duke team, and it seemed like they kind of ran out of gas. I wondered if the Spurs having to go through what they had to go through in the West just to get to the finals, to beat the defending champions at their place in a Game 7, and they were really celebrating after that too. I took note of that as well. And I don't hate on them. They can celebrate and have a good time. They beat the defending champions at their place in a Game 7. You should be excited. But Wembanyama was kind of crying, and there were group hugs, and they sort of were acting like they had won the NBA title by beating the Thunder in Game 7. So between having to go through a much more rigorous conference and then celebrating the way they celebrate at the end of Game 7, that all tipped me off to, I think I'm going to throw some money on the Knicks plus 165 before Game 1. That was last Wednesday. And the Knicks take Game 1, and the Knicks take Game 2. That game was tied at 104 with 30 seconds left, and the Spurs were about to get the ball after a missed free throw. Victor Wembanyama turns the ball over. Horrible turnover. Basically threw it right to Jalen Brunson, and then he fouled Brunson. So within 2 seconds, horrible pass, turned over, where they could have probably taken that clock almost all the way down, and then you either hit a shot to win it or you go to overtime. He throws a pass off the back of Steven Castle. Jalen Brunson picks it off, and then he just fouls Brunson, and Brunson hits the go-ahead free throw, and they win 105-104. So there are just a little bit of those brain fart moments, I think, for a 22-year-old kid, even though he's 7'4". For a 22-year-old kid playing at this level for the first time in his career, he just made a lot of mistakes. He was a turnover machine. So the Knicks win that game, and then he missed the game winner, I think. The Knicks win that game 105-104. How many turnovers did Wemby have? Victor Wembanyama. Yes. 5 turnovers in Game 2, 6 turnovers in Game 1. And he was not a guy, for as much as he handles the basketball and as tall as he is, for as much of an advantage as it is to be 7'4" in the NBA, I do think, even though he's a very good dribbler, when you've got some of those little guys going around your waist there, it's kind of hard to not have your pocket picked, I would think, once in a while, just by the physics of it. It takes a lot longer for the ball to bounce back up into your hand, and if you're not quick with it, some of those small, quick guards can poke that thing free, I would think. But Wembanyama has not been a guy who has been turnover-prone in the regular season, and he has been in the playoffs, and specifically in the finals. 10 or 11 turnovers in the 2 games. So he's got to be better tonight. Now, there is a lot of stuff going on tonight. So it's at Madison Square Garden, of course. It is the first finals game at MSG since we talked about 1999. And Trump is going to be in attendance tonight. It's just going to be a circus at MSG. I saw even upper tank MSG tickets tonight. I think they're going for high 4s or low 5s. Like, I think you're making major bank on the secondary market. Some of those upper tank tickets are going for $9,000, $10,000 tonight. And the court side, they've got to be damn near 6 figures, I would think. I've never seen a ticket that high priced or a secondary market look like that. But the Spurs, obviously, you need to win this. Nobody in the NBA has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. If the Knicks win tonight, they're up 3-0. Now, as somebody who is on the Knicks at plus 165, I would like them to get this tonight and to solidify that because my Stanley Cup bets are much more in the air. So I'd like to have that to lean on. But it is Game 3 tonight at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, you have the Trump factor in there. You've got New York hosting the basketball mecca, hosting their first NBA Finals game in 27 years, and tickets are going for a lot of bank. I'll be curious to see. I wonder if even there are some folks on Celebrity Row, like Spike Lee is obviously not going to get priced out of the market there. Who's the kid, the Dune actor, who's been in all of these? Chalamet? And he's dating a Jenner, I think. And Kylie, maybe, or Kylie. And he's been at all the games. Ben Stiller's like a diehard Knicks fan. I wonder, probably not that level of celebrity, but I wonder if there are some celebrity-level people that are even going to get priced out. Like, that's how expensive the ticket is, that even being an A-list or B-list celebrity, even that kind of money does not get you in. But that'll be coming up tonight, a 7:30 tip time at Madison Square Garden. And we'll talk more about this on Friday. I think we have a mailbag episode we're going to do on Friday. I've got an email about the Packers-Dolphins Malik Willis game. I've got an email about Tarek Skubal, and that's been a rumor out there for the Bucks or for the Brewers. Is that a guy they could pursue at the deadline? Are they going to make a big splash move? They have the farm system to do it. Would you go after Tarek Skubal, 2-time reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League, coming back from an injury, but in the last year of his contract? That would be a true CC Sabathia rental if they did that. I don't know that pitching's their problem, though, even though that one guy on Twitter thinks it is. He would be a proponent of the Skubal. So I've got an email on that. And then I do have an email about Giannis and the Bucks, and maybe a different perspective. I'm not going to say I haven't thought about this perspective on it. It has crossed my mind. I don't think it's the primary motivator to whatever they're going to end up doing between the Bucks and Giannis, but it's crossed my mind that maybe it's not Giannis that so much is angling for a trade here, but it might be the other side that wants to move on. I think we've even toyed around with that when we've talked about Giannis, but I've just put it in the back of my brain because I don't want that to be true. I don't want that to be... when all is said and done and whatever happens, happens, and then we get the full story 10 years down the road, I don't want that to be the truth. If Giannis ends up leaving and there is a trade in the next week or so, I don't want that to be the reason why it happened, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe this emailer isn't right. So I do think we're going to do at least kind of a half mailbag episode on Friday, but as of today, episode 375 on June 8th, Giannis is still a Milwaukee Buck. And like we've gone over with this saga, I think there's a chance by Friday we have a better feeling on what's going to happen. And then for sure next Friday, so we are only Friday's episode, Monday's episode, 3 episodes away from really maybe having a feeling on this. Not much has come up on social media in the last couple of days. It still feels like it's only Miami, even though you hear more about Portland now a little bit. It feels like Miami has the only offer, and it feels like it's kind of a take it or leave it there. The offer we talked about, Khalil Ware, Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, maybe another player, and then 2 or 3 first-round picks. I haven't read of any other offer out there. The only other rumor I saw over the weekend or maybe at the end of last week is that Giannis, per what sources? I have no idea. But Giannis apparently talking about the fact that he might not like the way the Heat roster looks after they give up what they have to give up to get Giannis. Feels like we've talked about that on the Strange Brew podcast. Feels like we've gone over the fact that whatever team wants to acquire Giannis, he wants to compete, he wants to be in the playoffs, he wants to battle for a title, he wants to be in the East, in the weaker Eastern Conference, which in theory has an easier path to the finals or an easier path to the Eastern Conference Finals. He wants all of that, but whatever team acquires him, are they going to have the parts? What is that team going to look any better than the Bucks currently do? If they have to give up 3 or 4 players, 1 key player, and a bunch of future first-round picks, how does that look then? So I don't know that Giannis has actually said that, but it's a worthwhile conversation, and it certainly would be a part of the debate, I would think, for Giannis as to whether or not he's staying or wants to go. What is the team I'm going to? What are they going to look like when they have to give up what they have to give up just to get me? But we can do a little bit of a mailbag episode coming up on Friday. So any questions, any takes, any gambling advice, you said this wrong, you did this wrong, John, any criticisms, you can fire them off to Strange Brew Pod, all one word, Strange Brew Pod at AOL.com, and we'll go through some of those on the Friday episode. That'll do it for us here on your Monday morning. I guess a little bit of a shorter episode by what we've been doing. This is still a lot longer than the original intention of this podcast. The original intention was to do 1 half-hour podcast every week. And now we've morphed into 2 episodes a week, and we've been going about an hour 10, I think. So this is kind of in line with where we probably should be. That'll do it for us here on your Monday morning. We will get back after on Friday. We will go over some of those emails. We will also talk about mandatory minicamp. That gets underway in Green Bay Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So everybody has to be there this week. Next week is the final OTA week. You don't have to be there, wink, but if you aren't here this week, you get fined for mandatory minicamp. If you're not there for any of the OTA weeks, technically, I don't think you can get fined. So if any news comes up, it'll be a busy week, and LaFleur has press conferences, I think, all week, and the players do too. Christian Watson will probably talk for the first time since his contract extension. Maybe there will be more information on Josh Jacobs, but that's happening. We'll talk about that. We'll recap the Brewer week in Las Vegas and get set for the Phillies at AmFam Field, and we'll do those mailbag questions as well. Have a happy, safe work week. We'll chat with you then.